This is Whisper from History, where forgotten voices rise again. Imagine a night when all of London sat upon a mountain of gunpowder, a conspiracy so bold that if it had succeeded, England's history would have been changed forever. This is the story of Guy Fawkes, a soldier trapped between faith, loyalty, and rebellion. Watch till the end, and uncover the truth of this young man's fate. Under the chill November skies of 1605, London stood uneasy, a city wrapped in shadows of suspicion and fear, ruled by a king who demanded loyalty above all else, and haunted by the whispers of treason. The story that would soon unfold was not simply about one man, but about an age where faith could dictate life or death, where loyalty to crown clashed violently with loyalty to God. And at the heart of this storm was a soldier named Guy Fawkes. Born in York in 1570, Guy Fawkes entered the world during one of England's most volatile periods. Elizabeth I was queen, and her rule had hardened against England's Catholic minority. Catholics were branded outsiders in their own homeland, forced to worship in secret, fined heavily for their faith, and stripped of trust within society. For many, their religion was more than ritual. It was an identity that connected them to family, heritage, and eternity. For Guy, who was baptized into Catholicism, this would shape the course of his life. His childhood carried echoes of division. His father died when Guy was just 8 years old, and soon after, his mother remarried into a devoutly Catholic family. This household, rich in faith but poor in power, raised him to see Catholicism not as a choice, but as a destiny. The England of his youth was relentless in its persecution of Catholics, creating an undercurrent of rebellion that would swell as the years advanced. Fawkes absorbed this climate like oxygen, but his spirit was restless, his vision broader than parish walls and outlawed prayers. In his 20s, he left England for the battlefields of Europe. Spain, a Catholic empire locked in bitter struggle with Protestant England, welcomed exiles like him. Guy Fawkes became a soldier of fortune, a man wielding fire and steel in the name of Catholic kings. He fought in the 80 Years' War in the Low Countries, and his courage became legendary among comrades. He learned the grim arts of warfare, how to hold a line, how to withstand a siege, how to ignite destruction. More than that, he learned discipline, loyalty, and the taste of purpose beyond his homeland. To English officials, he was already a traitor for serving a foreign crown. To fellow Catholics, he was a hero in exile, sharpened by the crucible of war. When Elizabeth I died in 1603, hope flickered among Catholics in England. Her successor, James I, had a Catholic mother, Mary, Queen of Scots, executed decades earlier by Elizabeth herself. Perhaps the son of a Catholic queen would show mercy. But these hopes quickly soured. James tightened restrictions, renewed fines, and crushed the fragile optimism of his Catholic subjects. In taverns and manors, in whispers carried through alleyways, disillusioned men began to imagine desperate measures. One of these men was Robert Catesby, a charismatic Catholic gentleman with a fire in his veins. Catesby was the architect of an audacious plan, nothing less than the destruction of the Protestant state by a single strike. His idea was as bold as it was terrifying. Blow up the Houses of Parliament during its grand opening in November, when King, Lords, and Commons would all be gathered under one roof. In one thunderous moment, England's leadership would be obliterated, and Catholic rebellion could sweep in the chaos that followed. But to execute such a plan required more than vision. It required powder, courage, and a man who could handle both. Catesby found this in Guy Fawkes. Hardened by years of military service, fluent in destruction, and above all, a man without wife or children to tether him. Fawkes became the perfect soldier for Catesby's cause. His skill with explosives was unmatched, his loyalty to the Catholic faith unshakable. He would be the hand that lit the fuse. The conspirators grew, a band of desperate men bound by oath and secrecy. They rented a cellar beneath Parliament, smuggling in barrels of gunpowder under the cover of night, concealed beneath firewood and coal. The stockpile grew to terrifying proportions: 36 barrels, enough to shatter stone and send fire roaring through Westminster's ancient halls. For months, they plotted in shadows, their hearts pounding with both dread and divine conviction. To them, it was not merely treason, it was holy war. But treason has a way of unraveling. Whispers leaked, suspicions spread, and loyalty fractured under the weight of conscience. Some conspirators began to question whether the plan would kill not only the king, but innocent Catholics as well. An anonymous letter was sent to Lord Monteagle, a Catholic peer, warning him to stay away from Parliament on the fateful day. The letter reached the authorities, though at first it was dismissed. But when King James himself reviewed it, he saw through the vagueness. He ordered Parliament's cellars searched. In the cold, early hours of November 5, 1605, guards entered the undercroft. They found a tall, bearded man standing watch beside the stockpile of powder. He gave his name as John Johnson, a servant. But upon closer inspection, the truth emerged. This was Guy Fawkes. At his feet lay the barrels of destruction, the breath of treason itself. Had he struck the match, English history would have changed forever in a single flash of fire. Instead, he was seized, bound, and dragged before his captors. The government celebrated the capture as divine providence, a miracle that saved king and country from annihilation. But for Fawkes, the nightmare had just begun. He was hauled before interrogators, tortured on the rack, until his body broke and his will cracked. His name spilled forth, his confession wrung from pain. The other conspirators, hunted down across the countryside, were killed in skirmishes or dragged to London in chains. By January 1606, Guy Fawkes stood trial with the surviving plotters. The courtroom was a theater of triumph for the state, and the verdict was never in doubt. They were condemned to die, the traitors death hanged, drawn, and quartered. On the final day, Guy Fawkes, broken but unbowed, climbed the scaffold. With a final act of defiance, he leaped from the gallows before the noose could claim him, breaking his neck instantly. Even in death, he denied his executioners the satisfaction of their ritual cruelty. The failure of the Gunpowder Plot sent shockwaves through England. For Protestants, it confirmed every suspicion about Catholic treachery. Laws against Catholics grew harsher, punishments heavier, trust forever shattered. For Catholics, it was a crushing blow, silencing hopes of relief under James. And for Guy Fawkes, his name would forever be etched into the memory of a nation, not as a soldier or martyr, but as the face of betrayal. Yet time reshaped his legacy. Each November, bonfires burned in England, celebrating the failure of the plot. Effigies of Guy Fawkes were thrown into flames. Children cheered as fireworks crackled across the sky. Remember, remember, the 5th of November became a rhyme passed through generations, a warning against treason and disloyalty. What began as state propaganda evolved into folk ritual, a tradition that outlived kings and parliaments alike. But beneath the flames and fireworks, a more complex story lingers. Guy Fawkes was not a simple villain. He was a man born into oppression, driven by faith, trained by war, and caught in a web of desperation, spun by men more powerful than himself. His hands carried the match, but the fire was lit long before in the persecutions, the betrayals, the deep fractures of a kingdom divided by faith. Centuries later, Guy Fawkes has taken on new lives. His image, masked and stylized, has become a global symbol of resistance, rebellion, and defiance against tyranny. From protest movements to films and novels, his face is worn by those who challenge authority. The man who once plotted to destroy government is now invoked by those who seek to hold it accountable. His name has traveled far from that damp cellar in 1605, reshaped into myth, rebellion, and cultural memory. The real Guy Fawkes remains harder to define. To some, he is a terrorist, a would-be murderer of innocence. To others, he is a martyr for faith, a man who dared to strike back against a system that branded his religion as treason. His story is a mirror reflecting the fears, hopes, and divisions of his time, and perhaps of ours as well. For though the gunpowder never ignited, the questions it raised still smolder. How far will men go for faith, for freedom, for the belief that their cause is just? The cellar beneath Parliament is gone, but the legend endures. Each November, as bonfires light up the sky, the ghost of Guy Fawkes flickers in the flames, a reminder of a plot that failed, and of a man whose story outgrew the fire he never lit. Guy Fawkes may never have lit the gunpowder, but his story still lives on. Every November, the flames and fireworks remind us of his failed plan. The question remains, was he a traitor or a martyr? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. This video is narrated by an AI voice, script and editing done by human.